So this will be the final demonstration within this project, and in this demonstration what we'll be going over is creating a assembly part and creating the overall assembly of our part files. So again, this is where the eDrawing resource comes into play, and it'll be an excellent resource again in just understanding where these mates are made within the project, and just getting visualize where these the different lines are connecting and the intersecting parts. So within this stage, the participants will have completed their house part, and the different teaching strategies would have been used for this. So this would have been more rote learning, would they be copying step by step what's happening on the demonstration. Their roof part, which they would have been shown during a demonstration, and then they would have to memorize, take their notes, and actually complete this part. So the difference in this part was they'd be using the bright plane. The chimney part, which then would have been an independent exercise, which they'd be able to talk to their peers with and engage with each other. And then the porch part, which would have been a final independent exercise, creating the part file completely independently. And as you can see, the different differentiated learning tasks for those high achieving participants. So within this demonstration, what we'll be going over is how to create a part file, or not a part file, sorry, an assembly file. So again, what we do is we come up to our file, select a new part, just as we did with all of our previous parts, and we come over to an assembly. So when this opens, the very first thing that I'd like to highlight to the participants is the differences in the layout of the assembly part. So as you can see, we have our beginner assembly with all of our part files, which we have open in SOLIDWORKS. So the very first thing that I'd highlight to the participants is if the part file is not in this little section here, what you'd have to do is browse and locate the part file which you have saved previously. Okay, so if I exit out of that for 1 second, again we have all of our planes as normal. We have our assembly features just here, so these are our key features. So the very first thing you do is you would insert your first part. So I'll come back to my eDrawing and it'll help me visualize that the main part is our base part. You can see all of our parts attached here and made onto our base part. It is the main part and it's key to the assembly. So the very first thing that I do is I'd come into Insert Components, opens up my tab. I have my chimney, my house base, my porch, my roof. I want my house base brought into my assembly. And I just click there and here it is, just like this. So the next thing we want to do is we'll go back over to our eDrawing and we see, okay, so the roof is the next main part. So we'll bring in the roof next. So I'll close this down, go back into my Insert Components, and again, if my roof wasn't here, all I do is browse roof, there we go, open it up, just like that. So what I do is I click here. And as you can see here at the moment, the parts move independently and there is no assembly yet. Okay, so the very first thing that I do is I draw my attention of the participants up to the assembly thing, and I allow them to first read and analyze what are the features present here and what do they believe would help us join these parts together. And we try edge them over to the mate tool. So the very first thing that I'd like to highlight about the mate tool is the mate tool. It isn't a one mate. There's multiple lines and multiple sections that have to be mated together in order for the assembly to be completely sturdy. So again, the very first thing that I would do is I'd say I'd like to put these two surfaces together so that the roof lies exactly on my house part. So here we go. There's my first mate done. And for the purpose of the demonstration, I'll just click out a mate straight away and I'd show them that although these two surfaces are mated together, the roof still moves around, okay? So what we need to do is we need to put more mates in. So mating, best thing to do is try and make it the least complicated as possible. So what I do is I'll mate this surface here, so the side of my roof onto the side of my house. There we go, and I'd exit out again just to show them. Now we have it in line like that. However, it's still not perfect. So you can see it runs perfectly there parallel with the house. However, there is still movement. So what we'd want to do here is we'd attach mate this surface here, so the edge of our roof here. So we're just clicking the lines, we're not clicking the overall surfaces. We're just clicking the lines here, or mating these together, just like that. And you can see here, perfect. We have our roof completely mated on. We can't move that at all. So there we have our first mate done completely. Next thing I do, again, I'd ask them what I'd do next. So they'd come back to their drawing, they'd be able to look, and they'd be able to see, okay, here's a roof part. Our chimney goes onto our roof there. So here we go over. I'd ask the pupils what feature I'd use to bring in my component. They go insert components, come over to my roof, and I would, oh, not my roof, sorry, my chimney, and I'd bring it straight into the assembly. And at this point, one thing I would highlight to the participants is here how you're able to rotate and move your parts just like that. So here we go. Just by manipulating that and just playing around with it, it's just a little bit easier for us. Okay. So very first thing I do is I know that this surface here will have to be mated to this portion of the roof. This surface here, under it there, will have to be mated to this portion of the roof, and we'd have to line up the edges here. So what we'd have here is the vertex of our triangle onto this vertex of the triangle again. So the vertex is obviously, then I'd explain, is just the very tip of our triangle there. So I'd ask them which feature I'd use, my mate tool, bring it over, and what I'd do is I'd mate this section right here onto the side of my roof, bring it over, and since we just clicked OK there, the mate tool is still open, so we can keep going. Move it, or oh, that's the wrong one there. There we go. This side here onto the side of the roof. Click OK. And finally, what I do is I bring just the vertex of that triangle up to this one here, and click OK. At that point, I close down my mate tool. So we have here is we have the chimney perfectly attached. See, if we're clicking it, we can't move it. Everything is perfect. So this is so far the assembly of our house, nice and perfectly done. So this is the tricky part that I would have to leave the pupils get to this point. I'd allow them to all get this far in the assembly, and then I'd call them back for another demonstration on the porch part. So I'd ask them to open their e-drawing and notice what is different with the porch part, that what techniques might be different that we use so far. So I'd put them in pairs, allow them to discuss it until they note that the center of the porch isn't aligned to an edge or a surface. Okay, so what we do is I'd bring them back over and I'd have them look up at the visualizer, or the however this is getting projected onto, and I'd show the pupils, if you insert your component just like before, so we have our front porch. Very first thing that we do is we'd want to get this level with the house. So we go to our mate, click the very bottom of our house, just like that, and we just click the very bottom of our porch as well. Lovely. So there we have one mate. So now if I was to move this around, what you'd notice is it is connected there like that. So the bottom line is always connected. So what we need is we need the back of our porch to be situated on the front of our house. So we come back over to mate again. We have the back of our porch, front of the house. Lovely. So we mate that together, exit out. And the next thing you notice is it's not centered. Okay. So we want the corner of this porch here, the distance from there to the corner, to be, if we look at our isometric drawing, to be 28. So here's our 28 right here, 28 millimeters. So all we do is we can come over to our mate tool. We can click the corner here, and we can click the corner of our house. And the first thing you notice is immediately it will slide over and join over like that. We don't want it at the corner, so all we do is we can come over to our functions here, and we see all of our different options. So this is what we've been using before: coincident. We have our parallel, a perpendicular, a tangent, concentric. We have also this one here. So if we hover over that, we'll see that it says our distance. So this is essential, okay? So if we click this, what we can do is, you can see, we can change the distance from the edge. So at the moment it's 29. If we come over to our isometric drawing, we know that we want that, to be 28. So all we do is we'll type in our 28, just like that. Set it. Okay. Lovely. Just like that. And what we have here is we have it fixed perfectly in the middle. So here is our overall assembly. So that is exactly how I'd like to show the pupils how to complete this final assembly. And then very lastly, what we'd show them is File, Save As. We can see SolidWorks assembly. So that differentiates it from our SolidWorks part files, which all of our 4 parts would have been saved as previously. So we can save that as an assembly. And if we wanted to, just to have it readily available on the desktop, if it was a part of an anatomy or if it was, let's say, a knee joint or something that they've created, published to an e-drawing, which would provide them just like I something just like I had provided them at the very start to help aid their visualization. So thank you for watching.